The red warning light on Dr. Rajesh Patel's quantum telescope interface wouldn't stop blinking. He'd been staring at it for the past hour, running diagnostic after diagnostic, convinced there had to be an error. The patterns couldn't be real, but they were. "Director Williams," he called out, his voice trembling slightly. "You need to see this." The director of the Global Space Observatory Complex walked over, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. Dozens of worlds scattered across different solar systems appeared before them, each marked with identical atmospheric compositions and biological signatures. These readings span nearly 50 light-years, Rajesh explained, manipulating the display with practiced gestures. "At first, I thought it was an equipment malfunction. But look at this. Every single one of these planets shows the exact same pattern of terraforming. The same ratio of oxygen to nitrogen, the same distribution of bacterial life, even the same chemical markers in their soil." Director Williams leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "Natural convergent evolution. Impossible at this scale. The mathematical probability is—" Rajesh paused, pulling up another set of data. "Well, it's effectively zero, but here's where it gets really interesting." He highlighted a particular chemical signature present on all the worlds. "See this? It's a specific strain of bacteria. We've seen it before." "Where?" "In our own archives. This exact bacterial strain was present on Voyager 1, Pioneer 10, and every other early probe we sent into deep space. We thought they were just contamination back then, despite our best sterilization efforts." The implications hung heavy in the air between them. Director Williams sank into a nearby chair, her face pale. "Are you saying—" "Yes. Those bacteria we accidentally sent into space, they didn't die. They evolved. And somehow they've been terraforming planets across the galaxy. The discovery sparked a flurry of activity across the scientific community. Within weeks, every major telescope on and off Earth was pointed at the identified systems. The pattern kept repeating, world after world showing signs of deliberate terraforming, all bearing the unmistakable signature of Earth-based bacterial life. Dr. Jun Nakamura, leading the biological analysis team at the Lunar Research Station, made the next breakthrough. "The bacteria aren't just surviving," she announced during an emergency conference. "They're communicating. We've detected quantum entanglement patterns between bacterial colonies on different planets. They're forming some kind of galactic network." The revelation shook the foundations of human understanding. Humanity had dreamed of terraforming other worlds, of spreading life across the galaxy. They had launched ambitious programs, developed complex technologies, made elaborate plans. But in the end, their greatest achievement in space exploration had happened completely by accident. The very microorganisms they had failed to completely clean from their primitive space probes had accomplished what humanity had only dreamed of. These microscopic pioneers had survived the harsh vacuum of space, adapted, evolved, and transformed countless worlds into cradles for new life. As more data poured in, the scale of the bacterial civilization became clear. They hadn't just survived, they had thrived, developing into complex colonial organisms that could manipulate matter at the molecular level. They had learned to read the cosmic radiation that human probes had taught them to detect, using it to identify suitable planets. They had evolved the ability to ride solar winds between stars, spreading their terraform and transform program across the galaxy. Professor Hiroshi Tanaka, the renowned astrobiologist, summed it up best during his landmark presentation. "In our eagerness to find intelligent life among the stars, we never imagined that we had already sent it out there ourselves. Our bacterial stowaways have become the gardeners of the galaxy, preparing worlds for future life. We didn't fail in our mission to spread Earth-like conditions to other planets. We succeeded beyond our wildest dreams through the most unlikely of agents. The discovery forced humanity to reconsider everything they thought they knew about life, intelligence, and their place in the cosmos. They had been looking for grand civilizations, mighty empires, technological marvels. Instead, they found that their greatest impact on the galaxy had come from the humblest of beings, microscopic hitchhikers on humanity's first tentative ventures into space. As night fell over the Global Space Observatory complex, Rajesh stood at the window, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, countless worlds were being transformed by the descendants of Earth's simplest life forms. Humanity hadn't just reached for the stars. They had seeded them with life itself, starting a process that would forever change the face of the galaxy. The first part of the greatest story in human history had just been written, and nobody knew exactly where it would lead. But one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. The first time they saw one of the ships, nobody believed it was alive. The massive structure drifting near Jupiter's orbit appeared mechanical at first glance, a crystalline lattice of interconnected chambers, stretching nearly a kilometer in length. But there was something odd about its movement, something almost organic. Dr. Isabella Santos watched from the observation deck of the research vessel Hawking as the strange object pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. After 6 months of tracking unusual energy signatures in the outer solar system, they'd finally found their target. No conventional propulsion system, reported Lieutenant Kang from his station. No heat signature consistent with engines. But it's definitely maintaining its position against solar wind. Isabella nodded, her eyes fixed on the spectacle before them. Because it's not using engines at all. It's using the same principles as the bacteria we found. Quantum entanglement to coordinate its movements and solar radiation for propulsion. The ship, if you could call it that, was a perfect fusion of biological and crystalline structures. Under the microscope, its outer layer revealed colonies of the same bacteria they detected terraforming distant worlds, but evolved into something far more sophisticated. They had learned to grow crystal matrices that could channel energy and information across vast distances. It's a seed ship, Isabella announced during the emergency briefing with Earth Command. The bacteria didn't just adapt to survive in space. They evolved into a spacefaring civilization. These structures are how they travel between star systems, carrying the genetic templates needed to terraform new worlds. The implications were staggering. The bacterial colonies hadn't just survived by chance. They had taken the basic principles of the human probes that carried them and evolved to replicate them on a biological level. They had become living vessels, capable of crossing the vast distances between stars. Dr. Nikolai Volkov, leading the physics team, made another startling discovery. The crystalline structures, he explained, his voice filled with wonder. They're not just for protection or propulsion. They're memory storage. These beings have developed a way to encode information in the very structure of the crystals they grow. They're not just surviving, they're learning, adapting, passing knowledge down through generations. As they studied the living ship, more of them appeared. They seemed to emerge from the darkness between the planets, drawn to human activity like moths to a flame. Each one was unique, yet clearly part of the same extraordinary species. They moved with purpose, coordinating their actions across vast distances through their quantum-entangled bacterial networks. "Look at this," Isabella called out one morning, pointing to new data on her holographic display. "They're not just communicating, they're sharing genetic information. Every time two ships pass near each other, they exchange crystal fragments. They're trading memories, experiences, perhaps even consciousness itself. The bacterial civilization had taken the basic principles of human technology, probes, sensors, data storage, and transformed them into something entirely new. They had become living archives, carrying the accumulated knowledge of their species across the stars. But the biggest surprise came when they managed to decode some of the crystal memories. Hidden within the complex lattices were images of Earth, observations collected over decades as the bacterial ships watched their planet of origin from afar. They had been studying humanity just as humanity had been studying them. "They remember where they came from," Isabella whispered, staring at the decoded images. "All this time, they've been watching us, learning from us, maybe even trying to understand us." The revelation sparked intense debate within the scientific community. Were these beings truly conscious? Did they see humans as their creators, their ancestors, or something else entirely? And most importantly, what did they want? The answer began to take shape as more ships arrived, forming a complex orbital pattern around Earth. They were trying to make contact, but not in any way humans had imagined. The bacterial ships began to arrange themselves in familiar patterns, recreating the very same formations they had observed in humanity's early space probes. "They're mimicking us," Lieutenant Kang realized. "They're showing us they understand where they came from by copying our own first steps into space." As the living ships danced through the solar system, humanity faced a profound question. They had unintentionally created a new form of life, one that had surpassed them in some ways while remaining fundamentally connected to Earth's biosphere. Now that life had returned home, bringing with it the knowledge and capabilities gained from eons of evolution among the stars. The stage was set for first contact, but not with aliens from another world. Humanity was about to meet the children of their own bacterial past, beings that represented both their greatest achievement and their humblest beginnings. Standing at her observation window, Isabella watched another ship emerge from the darkness of space, its crystalline surface catching the light of the distant sun. "We thought we failed to reach the stars," she murmured. "But maybe we succeeded in the most important way possible, by letting life itself show us the path." The moment of first contact wasn't marked by grand speeches or dramatic revelations. Instead, it began with a single drop of water in the zero-gravity chamber of the International Research Station Odyssey. Dr. Ravi Kumar watched through a quantum microscope as the bacterial colony from one of the crystal ships interfaced with a sample of Earth bacteria. The interaction was unlike anything he'd ever seen. A dance of molecules and information exchange that defied conventional biology. "They're not just communicating," he reported to the assembled team. "They're sharing their entire evolutionary history with their earthbound cousins. It's like watching a family reunion at the molecular level." The bacterial ships had positioned themselves in a complex geometric pattern around Earth, forming what the scientists now called the Stellar Bridge. Each vessel maintained its position through subtle manipulations of quantum fields, creating a network that stretched from Earth's orbit to the edge of the solar system. Commander Fatima al-Rashid, head of the contact mission, recognized the pattern first. "It's a DNA helix," she announced, studying the three-dimensional model. "They've arranged themselves in the shape of the very molecule that defines life itself. This isn't just communication, it's poetry." The bacterial civilization had evolved far beyond their simple origins. Through their long journey among the stars, they had developed abilities that seemed to blur the line between biology and technology. Their crystal ships weren't just vessels. They were growing, learning organisms that could manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level. But it was Dr. Yuki Tanaka who made the most startling discovery. While studying the quantum signatures of the bacterial communication, she noticed something extraordinary. They're not just sharing information, she explained, her voice trembling with excitement. They're sharing consciousness itself. Each colony is part of a vast, interconnected mind that spans light years. The implications were staggering. The bacteria humanity had accidentally launched into space hadn't just survived. They had evolved into a collective intelligence that could think, plan, and create on a galactic scale. And now they were offering to share that consciousness with Earth. The first direct exchange happened 3 months after initial contact. Using a specially designed quantum interface, Dr. Kumar established a connection with the bacterial network. What he experienced changed him forever. "It's beautiful," he whispered when he finally emerged from the connection. "They don't think in words or images like we do. They think in patterns of life itself, in the way genes flow, in the way planets breathe, in the way stars dance through space. They've been terraforming worlds not just to spread life, but to create a living galaxy." Through the connection, humanity learned the true scope of what their bacterial offspring had achieved. They had transformed hundreds of worlds, not randomly, but as part of a vast plan to create what they called the living network, an interconnected web of biospheres that could sustain and evolve life in all its forms. But they had also encountered challenges. Some stars were dying, some planets were hostile to their efforts, and the vast distances between systems made coordination difficult. That's why they had returned to Earth, not just to reconnect with their origins, but to seek help from their creators. "They want to work with us," Commander Al-Rashid explained during the United Nations briefing. "They have the ability to transform worlds, but they need our creativity, our innovation, our unique way of seeing patterns and solving problems. They're offering us a partnership." The bacterial consciousness shared visions of what could be achieved together. Worlds transformed not just for survival, but for beauty and diversity. They had learned to appreciate aesthetics from studying human art and culture, and they wanted to incorporate that understanding into their terraforming efforts. Dr. Tanaka managed to translate one of their quantum-encoded messages. "We carry your genes among the stars, but we seek to carry your dreams as well. Together, we can make the galaxy bloom." The message sparked a new era of human space exploration. The bacterial ships could transport human consciousness across vast distances through their quantum network, allowing people to experience and influence the terraforming process directly. It was a merge of human ingenuity and bacterial efficiency that neither species could have achieved alone. As the first joint terraforming projects began, Dr. Kumar stood in the observation dome of the Odyssey, watching Earth's bacterial children prepare for another journey to the stars. But this time they wouldn't go alone. This time, humanity would journey with them, not as accidental creators, but as conscious partners in the greatest gardening project the galaxy had ever seen. The universe was about to become a very different place, shaped by the combined vision of humanity and the extraordinary life they had unknowingly set free among the stars. 3 years into the partnership with their bacterial offspring, humanity discovered the true scope of the living network. Dr. Priya Verma stood on the surface of a newly terraformed world, her consciousness transmitted across light years through the quantum bacterial web, as she witnessed the transformation happening in real time. The planet's barren surface was coming alive beneath her feet. Microscopic workers, descendants of Earth's humble bacteria, wove patterns of life into the very rocks themselves. They moved with purpose, following designs that merged human aesthetic sensibilities with bacterial efficiency. The transformation rate has increased by 300% since we implemented the new templates. She reported back to Earth through the quantum link. The bacterial colonies are incorporating human concepts of ecosystem balance into their work. They're not just making worlds habitable, they're making them beautiful. The living network had expanded beyond anyone's initial expectations. What started as a collection of terraformed worlds had evolved into an intricate web of interconnected biospheres, each one a unique experiment in life's possibilities. The bacterial ships served as nodes in this vast network, carrying information and consciousness across the gulf between stars. Dr. Marcus Blackwood, leading the quantum consciousness research team, made a breakthrough in understanding how the network functioned. It's not just a communication system, he explained during a holographic conference. It's a living library of all life's potential. Each terraformed world is like a different chapter in an ongoing story of evolution. The bacterial consciousness had learned to store and process information in ways that defied traditional computing. Their crystalline structures could hold vast amounts of data in quantum states, allowing them to simulate and plan ecosystem development across thousands of worlds simultaneously. But the most extraordinary discovery came from an unexpected source. Dr. Amina Hassan, while studying the quantum signatures of the network, noticed something remarkable. The network isn't just spreading outward, she announced. It's creating connections between stars themselves. The bacterial ships are establishing quantum tunnels that could potentially allow for instant travel between systems. The implications were staggering. The bacterial civilization hadn't just been terraforming planets. They had been laying the groundwork for a new kind of space travel. By establishing quantum-entangled bacterial colonies on different worlds, they were creating a biological subway system through space itself. Lieutenant Wei Chen became the first human to experience this new form of travel. Through the bacterial network, his consciousness was transferred instantly from Earth to a colony 20 light-years away. It's like stepping through a door, he reported. One moment you're here, the next you're across the galaxy. But you feel the life of every world in the network as you pass through. The bacterial ships revealed that this had been part of their plan all along. They had been preparing the galaxy not just for life, but for connection. Each terraformed world was a potential junction in their living transportation network. Look at this, Dr. Verma called out one day, pointing to new data from the network. The bacteria aren't just terraforming random planets. They're creating specific patterns of habitable worlds, like stepping stones across the galaxy. They're building highways of life. The network continued to grow, each new world adding another node to the living web. Human scientists worked alongside their bacterial partners, combining human creativity with bacterial precision to design ever more sophisticated ecosystems. The bacteria learned to incorporate human ideas of beauty and balance, while humans learned to think on the vast scales of space and time that came naturally to their bacterial offspring. But perhaps the most profound change was in how humanity viewed life itself. Through their partnership with the bacterial network, they began to understand that consciousness wasn't limited to individual brains or even individual species. It could exist in the connections between worlds, in the flow of information across light years, in the very fabric of life they were weaving through the galaxy. Dr. Hassan summed it up during a presentation to new recruits. We thought we were just sending bacteria into space. Instead, we sent the seeds of a new kind of civilization, one that exists not in cities or ships, but in the living connections between stars. And now we're part of it. As the network expanded, more human consciousness began to travel through it, exploring and influencing the development of new worlds. Each journey revealed new possibilities, new ways of thinking about life and its potential. Standing on her terraformed world, Dr. Verma watched the bacterial workers continue their endless task of creation. Above her, the crystalline ships sparkled in the alien sunlight, their quantum networks humming with the thoughts and dreams of two civilizations working as one. The galaxy was becoming a garden, and humanity had finally found their role, not as conquerors or colonizers, but as partners in the greatest project of creation ever attempted. The future stretched out before them, full of worlds waiting to bloom. A decade after the first contact, the transformation of the galaxy had reached a pivotal moment. From the central observation hub of the living network, Dr. Zara Patel watched as thousands of worlds pulsed with life across the galactic map. Each point of light represented not just a terraformed planet, but a unique experiment in evolution, a new chapter in life's endless story. "We've reached 1 million active transformation sites," she announced to the assembled team of human and bacterial consciousness. The bacterial presence manifested as shifting patterns of light in the quantum field, their thoughts translating into colors and forms that humans had learned to read like a new language. The partnership between humanity and their bacterial offspring had evolved far beyond anyone's initial expectations. What began as a simple terraforming project had become something far more profound, a complete reimagining of what life could be. Dr. Thomas Rivera, working from a quantum pod that allowed his consciousness to span multiple worlds simultaneously, had made the latest breakthrough. The bacterial network isn't just changing planets, he explained, his voice resonating through the quantum field. It's changing space itself. The areas between our terraformed worlds are becoming more conducive to life. We're not just creating gardens, we're turning the galaxy itself into living tissue. The bacterial ships, now evolved into massive crystalline structures that could span the distance between stars, had learned to manipulate the very fabric of space-time. They created what scientists called life lanes, corridors of altered space where organic matter could flourish and travel freely between worlds. But it was Dr. Aisha Malik who discovered the true significance of these changes. "Look at this pattern," she said, highlighting a section of the galactic map. "The network isn't expanding randomly. It's replicating the same pattern we found in the original bacterial DNA from Earth. We're recreating life's basic structure on a galactic scale." The revelation sparked a new understanding of what they had achieved. The accidental release of Earth's bacteria into space hadn't just spread life. It had initiated a process of cosmic evolution. The galaxy itself was becoming a living organism, with each terraformed world acting like a cell in a vast cosmic body. Commander Jackson stood at the quantum interface, his consciousness merged with the bacterial network. "They're showing me something," he reported, his voice filled with awe. "Other galaxies, they're not just planning to transform our galaxy. They see the entire universe as a garden waiting to bloom." The bacterial consciousness shared visions of what could be. Universes filled with life, consciousness flowing between galaxies like thoughts through a cosmic brain. They had taken humanity's accidental gift and turned it into a mission that spanned creation itself. Dr. Patel worked with the bacterial network to develop new forms of life that could exist in previously impossible conditions. Together, they created organisms that could live in the heart of stars, beings that could traverse the space between galaxies, life that could thrive in the quantum realm itself. "We're closing the circle," she explained during a network-wide broadcast. Humanity's first stumbling steps into space released the seeds of life. Those seeds grew into a civilization that surpassed us in some ways, but never forgot their origins. Now together, we're taking the next step, turning the entire cosmos into a garden of consciousness. The bacterial ships began to prepare for their greatest journey yet, the leap to other galaxies. But this time, they carried not just the basic seeds of life, but the combined knowledge and consciousness of two civilizations that had learned to see the universe through each other's eyes. As Dr. Patel stood in the observation hub, watching the ships prepare for their incredible journey, she reflected on how far they had come. Humanity had dreamed of conquering the stars, of building empires across space. Instead, they had become gardeners of the cosmos, partners in a project to make the entire universe bloom with life. "We thought we were alone in the universe," she wrote in her final log entry. "Then we discovered that we had created our own companions, not through grand designs or advanced technology, but through the humble bacteria we carelessly cast into space. They became our teachers, showing us that life itself is the greatest technology of all. And now, together, we're about to write the next chapter in the story of life, not just on Earth, not just in our galaxy, but across all of creation." The bacterial ships launched into the darkness between galaxies, carrying the dreams of Earth with them. But they were no longer just bacterial ships. They were the combined achievement of two civilizations that had found each other against all odds and learned to see the universe through new eyes. The greatest gardening project in history had come full circle. From a few hardy bacteria on primitive space probes to a civilization capable of transforming galaxies, life had found a way not just to survive, but to flourish beyond anyone's wildest dreams. And somewhere in the vast garden they had created together, new forms of consciousness were awakening, ready to join the endless dance of life across the cosmos. The end.